after not holding a single press conference during her tenure working in the Trump White House, Stephanie Grisham finally spoke out in her book, I'll Take Your Questions Now. The former White House secretary's tell-all book, well, it just keeps spilling the tea about the disastrous Trump administration. This time, the spotlight is on congressional lawmaker Lindsey Graham. Now, according to The Independent, Grisham wrote in her book, I'll Take Your Questions Now, that Lindsey Graham was almost as frequent a guest at Trump properties as I was, adding, okay, I'm exaggerating, but not by much. The difference, of course, is that I was there to work, she said. Now, Grisham seems to be hinting at something, but she really does end up getting to the meat of things. What she does is she details one of these instances that she's referring to about the North Carolina senator, and she refers to him as a freeloader. Grisham wrote this: Senator Freeloader was sitting at a table by the pool, a big grin on his face, lapping up the goodies he was getting like some Pontante, forgive me, I don't know that word. He said to me with a creepy little smile, isn't this great? Man, this is the life. It struck me that he was using Trump to mop up the freebies like there was no tomorrow. Seems that he still is. He would show up at Mar-a-Lago or at Bedminster to play free rounds of golf, stuff his face with free food, and hang out with Trump as his celebrity pals. Wow. You know what? I'm not particularly shocked, Lindsey Graham. Seems like that's right up his alley. Are you shocked, JR?
Not at all. This is the thing. I always feel this is a part of the I wouldn't call it a perk, but just the way that a lot of politicians and people go back and forth. When I went to DC, obviously we live in LA, and there's this a star culture. Like, even though everyone you run into, in fact, 99% of the people you run into on the streets or see driving or out at malls and restaurants, they're not famous, but everyone acts like it. So that when you do actually see someone that's semi-famous, they can't wait for you to be like, oh, who's that so-and-so? And it's similar with like politicians, with senators and Congress people. They're the celebrities of DC. So they love this attention. I can buy it because he would love to be sitting at an event like that. I can see it happening. Anyone, this isn't just a Lindsey Graham thing in my opinion. You're sitting at a swanky event, you're doing your work as a politician, which is like mingling with other folks, in this case would be the president at the time. And he's like, isn't this great? This is my life. I ran for office and I've been here for a decade, and then I get to go to Mar-a-Lago and sit around and hang out at free rounds of golf because my name is Lindsey Graham, and then I'm gonna go on Fox News later and complain about how the Democrats are trying to screw us over. This is just easy. It's an easy life in a way, until it's time to fundraise and try to lie and convince people that you're actually looking to work for them. But until then, it's fun and games. So I could see it as a thing, and honestly, I think she could have wrote this about several other politicians.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if she could indeed. But the fact is, like, you're supposed to be a public servant serving the people. Instead, you're just getting extra service of food. Like, this just seems really grimy. But we should see how Graham feels about Grisham's depiction of him. And we do get to hear it. Well, because Graham spoke on air with Newsmax's Rob Schmitt, and he tried to really just joke off the freeloader comment, reminding us that he's really kind of just as funny as he is decent. Check this out.
Grisham, who's just another, frankly, a turncoat, former White House communications director. She's got this tell-all book. She says in the book, she talks about you. She says, as to Lindsey Graham, it struck me that he was using Trump to mop up the freebies like there was no tomorrow. Seems that he still is. What exactly is she implying here, and what's your response to that?
Apparently, she's implying that the only reason I want to be around President Trump is because of the food. So
the food?
I'll let you determine if that's why I spend time with the president, because I need my next meal. So
I guess they're not paying you guys enough in the Senate, huh?
My appreciation for President Trump includes the food, but much beyond that.
Yeah, appreciation, I'm sure.
There's little things that I notice when I watch these things, because I edit a lot of video, especially with politicians. And a lot of times I'm trying to see where the point that they're trying to make is, and where the lie is, and where the truth lies. So I'm looking at a lot of things. He looked off, first of all, Lindsey Graham looked off once or twice before the question was even finished being asked. So there's probably aides and staff members that are generally around him. Maybe they're giving him signals like, this is the question we're talking about. See, he looked off once. he's still asking a question. He's like, oh man, they're putting up this freebie idea. And I don't know what she's talking about. He says, the anchor there, I didn't see the whole interview, so apologies for that. But the anchor there didn't bring up food, but apparently the line in the book was about food in as well as other things. So he knew right away what he was talking about. And he knew right away what excerpt he was quoting from the book, even though he didn't mention the food part. So he's been reading up on what it is that she's now dishing out about him, forgive the pun, but he knew. And he's prepared to try and make sure he downplays it or doesn't act like he's really just hanging around the president to do these things. It's pretty, I don't know, I think it's pretty clear to me that that's what was happening. And honestly, just admit it, it's fine. You were hanging out, it's a nice swanky dinner, you want to be there. It's not like people are now gonna vote you out because they think that or know that about you, but you have to downplay it. And say, I guess she's talking about food, and he looks off 3 more times. Like, am I saying it right, you guys? We prepared for this, right, you guys? Right? Nothing is authentic and nothing is normal with these guys.
No, I like how you think he prepared. I'd like to think that he was probably afraid of what she would say, because Lord knows what else he's been picking up hanging around Trump. Just given how distasteful that our former president was, it makes me wonder. He ran with a certain crowd, so I just wonder necessarily what some of the politicians did when they were, in his company. But one thing we do know is that there's a lot of hypocrisy that went around here, and Grisham, well, she had the nerve to throw shade on the Trumps after really cozying up to them for those 4 long, loathsome years. And it's interesting because the irony of this whole situation, it's really not lost on everyone, including Good Morning America host George Stephanopoulos, because he started off with the inevitable first question of what took you so long? Let's watch.
You detail 4 years of toxicity, abuses of power, a culture of casual dishonesty, but you stayed until the final 2 weeks. I mean, the inevitable first question is, what took you so long?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and it's a complicated question. I went into the Trump campaign a true believer and a true loyalist, and then
you had actually worked against him in the primaries, hadn't you?
No, I had worked in very, very early. I'd worked on a couple of minor campaigns, but it was when the field was at 15 or 16, so I hadn't worked against him at all. And when I worked his first rally, I was absolutely impressed by the crowd and the reaction that he got, and I liked the way that he truly was giving a voice to people who felt forgotten. As I went through my years, I spent a huge amount of time on the East Wing, and so I was almost shielded sometimes from a lot of the toxic nature of the West Wing and the administration. When I went to the West Wing is when I actually started to see what it was really like, and I regretted that decision immediately.
What? The fact that it was worse when she was in the West Wing itself as opposed to the things he did in front of the camera? Like, get out of here.
I'm trying to figure it out. I've never been to the White House, as you may be surprised to hear. Is there like a barrier where you can't hear, see, or experience anything that's happening if you're on the East Wing versus the West Wing? Or then maybe everyone else who's watching what the president was doing the entire time knows it, but you have earplugs. What is it about that you're missing that's happening within the administration that you work with? And wasn't she like best friends with Melania? Does she not discuss anything with her? Am I getting the right Grisham correct?
No,
right,
she's
this is
just
the best
trying
friend.
to deflect. Yeah, she knows that she is just as responsible on the line, that all she had to do is they have TVs all over the White House. She could have clicked one on to see how distasteful the man was and the shenanigans in which he was engaging. So, it's just, it's nonsensical, it's implausible, and it's damn sure not gonna get me to buy her book. But also to add on, another real shot of irony here with regard to Stephanie's book is, her hypocrisy here. Well, she was back with Lou Dobbs in 2020 talking trash about John Bolton, immediately writing a tell-all book upon bouncing from the White House. Check this out.
John Bolton, the president's former national security advisor, writing a book, a tell-all, if you will. I've never heard of such a thing. No one that I know, who I know, has ever heard of it. What a rancid, corrupt, absolutely disgusting move for him to have made.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Here's a man who purports to care about the national security of this country, and to leave the White House and immediately go write a book. It's really disappointing, and clearly he's trying to sell a book. I'm sad to see that it's happening. We don't even know what's in the book is going to be true. The president has made clear that none of the things that are being claimed right now are true.
Well, I could tell you one thing is true. The irony here is pretty thick. The fact that she went out the moment she leaves the White House and writes this book, and just reading a few paragraphs, I'm gonna tell you, this seems like a quick write, because it does not seem to really, it's not a mover. It's really, no, I don't think it'll be anything in terms of historic and landmark books.
But what do you know about writing books, Adrian? This is the thing. What I've noticed, and even when people have pointed this out with media figures, when you got anchors, they may go from one job to the next. Hey, maybe you work in fast food and you've gone from Wendy's to McDonald's. Now you may be like, yeah, I have my Wendy's hat on now, and then I'm gonna go to my McDonald's hat if you end up switching to the job. And yeah, your loyalty lies there. It's weird that it happens with politicians, it happens with aides, it happens with, she was a press secretary. All these things where it doesn't matter what you say, you just have to say it in the right moment where you are. There's absolutely zero, there's no embarrassment. There's no looking back on that. When Stephanie Grisham decided to write this book and went, I said something about Bolton writing a tell-all on how backhanded and backstabby it was. Oh, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna make some money off it. That's really all it is. And you know what? The reason why they do it is because it'll work. She'll be back within good graces to a degree. People will be like lauding her for writing this book. You look at the tell-all she told everyone. There's been like 7 and 8 of these tell-alls. And yeah, it's interesting with some of the things that we didn't hear about that was happening while it was happening. But are we supposed to now accept that you were this courageous figure that was trying to get out, but he just kept pulling you back in? Where does the line get drawn,
It gets drawn at the publishing papers because these people, they just want to get their coins. They lack integrity, character, and they truly are just trying to really reshape their image after having worked for essentially one of the most insidious presidents, I believe, I'd like to say we've probably ever had.
I hope so. Well, I hope that we will ever have, but maybe not.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.